though it can feel scary if you're rebelling against what everyone around you practices or everyone that you know and love around you. If you are rebelling or doing something different than them because it doesn't feel right to you and your body, that can feel kind of scary.
I'm Heather Grzych, and this is the Wisdom of the Body podcast. This podcast explores the idea of body intelligence as the real key to learning the knowledge of life, or what we call Ayurveda in the ancient language of Sanskrit. We do that by connecting with today's creative leaders and experts who will help you listen to your body, trust your gut, and live in deeper harmony with nature. Come join me as we unlock the golden door to clear, direct perception and become very deep listeners. You can find the Wisdom of the Body podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Stitcher. You can also follow us by joining my email at heathergrzych.com or on Instagram at heathergrzych. I know you're going to love this podcast, so take a second right now to subscribe.
Welcome to the Wisdom of the Body. Today, we're going to talk about whether religions help or hinder fertility today. Many of us growing up in some kind of organized religion, we noticed that there were certain views around sex. There's a lot to say about this, but today I'm going to focus specifically on the reproductive aspect of sex and whether religion and spirituality are helpful or harmful for fertility today. And many people have addressed this topic in literature. If you've read The Handmaid's Tale, that's probably one of the most well-known examples of a commentary on the future of fertility and religion, albeit fiction. In the story and in the show that was made based on the book, the fertility rates have declined so dramatically that the whole society becomes restructured around what a Christian fundamentalist group feels will increase the reproductive success for its population. And if you've ever seen the show or read the book, you know that it has this feeling of pointing out some weird biological truths to us that we may not be recognizing today in our current society. And at the same time, we see how the human minds of that world also create these weird superstitions that may satisfy one group's desire for control while not making any biological sense or being effective in achieving what they originally sought out to do, which was to improve the birth rates and fertility. And I think religions can be like this. I'd bet that all religions have practices that may seem positive, but don't actually make sense biologically in certain contexts when they're done, say, in the wrong context. I always think about the time I spent in India and I stayed up all night chanting for Mahashivaratri. We chanted Om Namah Shivaya all night from 8 p.m. to 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning. And it was amazing. It was this really elating experience. It was one of the most powerful, cool experiences I've had in my life, actually. And at the same time, I was sick that whole week afterwards. I got really sick. My immune system was weakened. I ended up coming down with a virus, and probably my immune system was weaker because of the lack of sleep that I got that night, for example. And I always think about this other example of me being a very kind of a fast metabolizing teenage athlete and, needing lots of sleep and needing to eat regularly and then having to go to church in the morning. We were raised Catholic for a lot of my childhood, and having to go to church in the morning and having to fast before going to church in the morning. So you can imagine that might create some problems for a young female athlete in the teenage years who teenagers just need a lot of sleep. So in the wrong context, certain things can actually hinder our health and can result in a spiritual or religious practice not having a good biological impact. Now, I don't want to discount religion and say that there isn't a lot of good that's done with religion, because I do believe that there is. I'm just saying we can't be blind followers to religion, no matter how serious we are to it. Let's look at some statistics around fertility and one's religion. So the Pew Research Center has ranked the religions by who has the highest number of births per woman. So in first place, we have the Muslims, and then we have Christians. And then after that, all the other religions have declining populations, births. So certain religious groups are more likely to have longevity, so people living longer, but the Muslims and the Christians are having the most increase in births. And they're not falling because in general, all the birth rates are falling across all religions, but these are declining the least slow, we'll say. And then we have this category of the religiously unaffiliated, or what Pew refers to as the nuns. So you're in the nun category if you don't have a religion. And they report that the religiously unaffiliated women have fewer children than those who are affiliated with a religion. So that's really interesting. Should we come to the conclusion then that if I follow a religion, that perhaps my fertility might be in better condition? Some people might come to that. Some people are probably hearing that and going, that's ridiculous. So the decision to follow a religion or identify with a particular religious tradition, it's influenced by a lot of different things. There's an interplay of individual, social, or cultural, psychological, and even environmental factors. And these predictors of religious affiliation can vary widely across different contexts and populations, but there are several common factors that may contribute to an individual's decision to embrace a religious identity or a practice. That might be their family's background or who they hang out with, where they grew up. Even certain personality traits and personal experiences will all drive a person to either become affiliated with a religion or a specific religion or no religion at all. Now, anything done religiously requires practice related to something that one believes in. I do this because of this. And one's religious and spiritual beliefs can significantly influence their approach to wellness and medicine, because different religious traditions actually can shape and influence someone's approach to their wellness journey or what medicines they believe are acceptable. Some religious traditions provide unique perspectives on health, or why illness happens, or how to heal, or how the mind, the body, and the spirit are connected. And these religious beliefs may shape perceptions of your health and of your illness. For example, certain religious traditions view health as a reflection of spiritual alignment or karma, whereas illness may be seen as a spiritual imbalance or a sin or the consequences of karma or karmic consequences. Karma itself just means action. Coloring the karma, whether it's good or bad karma or done in the right context, beneficial versus harmful, that's different. But karma itself just means action. So these beliefs about karmic consequences, sinning, things like that, they can influence people's attitudes toward preventive care, their treatment approaches, and coping strategies that may come up during an illness or when somebody is struggling with something like fertility. And I would say that religion can sometimes verge on the medical because it often incorporates specific healing practices or rituals or ceremonies that are believed to promote well-being. And that well-being might be emotional or spiritual or mental, but all of those things affect the physical as well. And these practices might be prayer, meditation, or fasting, chanting, devotional songs, chanting or singing devotional songs, even rituals of purification or seeking blessings from a spiritual leader or a healer or a shaman of some sort. And because that bringing in of new souls to planet Earth, where we all generally are living and reproducing right now, it's not exactly a process that anyone understands with their conscious minds. We understand that if the sperm and the egg come together, then those cells might, start joining and fusing, and growth may happen from there, and then they may implant inside a uterus. We understand the physical aspects of this, but we don't understand the spiritual, the soul aspects of this. Like, when does a soul enter those cells? What is a soul? So when it comes to people struggling with fertility issues, both religion and science have a valid place. Now, religious teachings can influence ethical considerations related to medical treatments and interventions. So, for example, certain religious beliefs may inform decisions about end of life care, or if you're going to donate an organ, or any ethical boundaries in medical research. And many religions develop boundaries around what kind of science they feel is ethical. And this definitely influences fertility today. I briefly mentioned this in my book, The Ayurvedic Guide to Fertility. There are actually religious groups who don't support the use of some intervention heavy assisted reproductive technologies like IVF, while taking some kind of hormonal support like progesterone when you become pregnant and your progesterone might be a little bit low, that might be okay, while IVF may not be okay to certain religious groups. So there's been boundaries drawn by certain religious groups on certain medical interventions. And if you're a person struggling with fertility and your religion doesn't allow you to do the things that it may take in order for you to have a child, considering your life circumstance right now, your physical body, and the web that keeps your physical body in its condition, that can be a difficult spot to be in. It can be a really difficult spot to be in. And I'm not even going to get into abortion stuff. I'm going to just keep it focused on fertility today. But religion often provides things like a sense of community, social support, and belonging that can positively impact your mental health and your resilience in times of illness or adversity, of which for many people, a fertility journey may be a time of great adversity. Religious communities, they have some positive aspects of offering emotional support or practical assistance, maybe even resources for individuals facing health challenges. But on the other hand, so could other group activities. Even a monthly book club can give you the same kind of feel that people get through religion. Religion can help people suffering loss or mortality if they have people dying around them or if they're going to be dying. These kinds of existential life challenges, religion can be very helpful with. But like I pointed out earlier in the IVF example, sometimes what one's religion says is ethical, acceptable, or moral isn't necessarily in line with the goals of a person, the worldly goals of a person. And I'm not judging whether or not it's okay to have worldly goals, but I will say that I've worked with quite a few people who have negative feelings about IVF, either because they went through it and it didn't work, or because they went through it and it worked and they just hated the experience because it was awful, it was painful, it wasn't what they thought it was going to be like becoming pregnant, or because if they wonder in the back of their mind if forcing your body to do something that it won't do, quote unquote, naturally is okay, if there's some other unknown consequence to doing IVF. And not all these people that feel weird about IVF are religiously unaffiliated. So it's not all the religious people walking around saying, oh, I don't think IVF is, there's something off or weird about it. It's not just those people, because there's many atheists and agnostics that still get an unsettling feeling when they contemplate using IVF too. And I've worked with a lot of people who've used IVF to build their families. I'm not saying whether it's good or bad, but what we believe about something is what's relevant. Two people can have a similar attitude about a medical intervention, but come at it from two completely different sets of beliefs. One whose religion says it's bad, and another whose gut says it's bad, or their head says it's bad. And sometimes it could be all of those things. Now, religions have another big impact on fertility, and this has to do with sex and around when it's okay to have sex. For example, having sex before marriage. You know, most of the religions, as far as I know, don't say you can't have sex before you're 16, right? Or you can't have sex before you're 18. They'll say don't have sex until you become married. And so there's a lot of boundaries and rules and moral and ethical considerations around when you have sex, at what age, having sex outside of marriage, having multiple partners for sex. We know the Christians don't like any of those things. There are many limitations placed on sex. And so, yeah, the Christians don't want us going around screwing whoever we want. But I also point this out in my book. Many births in the United States are actually from mothers who are unmarried. And the last time I checked the data, it was somewhere around 40%. of births take place to women who are unmarried. So it does make you wonder if marriage, at least in a biological sense, I don't want to judge anybody, except I'm trying to get us to look at what makes biological sense. It makes you wonder if marriage is really the prerequisite for becoming a mother that the religions want it to be. Okay. Now, it makes biological sense not to sleep around. When we have sex, we're mixing bodily fluids, energy, microbiomes, we're depleting ourselves of fluids. Even though someone might be having lots of fun sleeping around, the more sex and sexual partners, well, the more your immune system has to work, the more your body has to recover. And certain bodies are going to be more tolerant of those things. So if we're talking about a situation where we're going from being animals with straight up animal urges that just had sex whenever they wanted to, or whenever the moon was right, or whenever the temperature was right, or whatever it is that makes animals reproduce that humans have sort of broken out of, moving from animals to becoming something else, or animal plus something else, to becoming people that want to be mindful of the benefits and the risks of sex because maybe they've noticed certain problems with certain things, then it would make sense that religions would want to put the brakes on sexual activity for many people. But I've seen a lot of data in the last few years talking about how people are having less and less sex, and that people are waiting longer to have sex. So it makes me wonder if the religiosity around sex and the boundaries that have been placed on sex, that I'm questioning, is that going to start hindering the birth rates if people are also waiting longer to get married as well, waiting longer to have sex? So just things to think about if you find yourself in a situation where you're wrestling with your relationship with your religion. I will say personally, I am in that religiously unaffiliated category, though I do consume the great books of many religions. I appreciate them. I like a lot of the ideas, a lot of the stories, and even some of the rituals of many religions I might adopt. But for me, no one has captured the flag. I like that term. I don't go at it with belief. And I read the books the same way that I look for truth in a poem. I look at the religions as providing metaphors and practices that are designed to give me some wisdom, some way to be in the world that helps me understand the bigger picture of things and what's inside my own heart. That's not why everybody goes to religion, but that's what I appreciate about them. I am grateful that when I personally started questioning things as a teenager, when I started learning a lot about history and science, that my parents didn't force me to go to church any longer. And that happened because they were kind of falling out of it themselves. So I had the freedom to explore my understanding of the world through other lenses. But my childhood family, I was young and I was getting ready to go deeper into education. My childhood family, with my parents, they weren't able to do that. I think we probably got some of the structure that you would have gotten from religion through other things, like playing competitive sports. Every weekend we were off at a tournament where my sister and I were playing. Some families get that structure in other ways outside of religion, in a particular topic. Maybe it's science. And today, personally, because I'm a huge fan of structure, I think it's really, really beneficial for families to have structure, for kids to have structure, for adults to have structure. I think everybody needs to find the right level for themselves. And now, after I'm an adult raising another child now, and in my house, it's more of a mishmash of science and spirituality. And I get my sense of spirituality and even my sense of structure from activities that my son is involved in. Like, he goes to his baseball games once a week and a practice once a week, and I get structure from that. So in a way, that gives me some of the things that I may get from participating in an organized religion. And this is why I love the term wisdom of the body, because I feel that honoring our bodies deepens our experience of being human. And if we're religious or if we're a scientist, then I think paying attention to the wisdom of the body, we will learn how to spot practices or dogma in both religion and science, because you'll get dogma in both, not just in religion, there may be practices or dogma that are actually not relevant for our specific life circumstances. We learn how not to become blind followers, which is empowering, though it can feel scary if you're rebelling against what everyone around you practices or everyone that you know and love around you. If you are rebelling or doing something different than them because it doesn't feel right to you and your body, that can feel kind of scary. So it's kind of like when you're in a yoga class and your teacher says, okay, do this pose and do it like this. And you start to go into it and you go, I know that every time I do this like that, I activate an old neck injury. And if I just do it, then I'm just going to activate that neck injury. Why would I do it? Am I doing it because everybody else around me is doing it? Am I doing it because it's really what my body wants? Am I doing it because I don't want to look like I'm standing out? Am I doing it because I think I should do it because it's the right pose to do at that time? And whatever thoughts are going through your head at that moment when you're making that decision to accept the prompt from the teacher, these decisions that you make, they end up telling you whether you're listening to the wisdom of the body, your body. So do you do the pose and hurt yourself? Or do you bow out and go into child's pose? Or do you find some other way to do it that is maybe like what the teacher is offering, the spirit of what the teacher is offering, but perhaps in a slightly different shape that doesn't irritate your old injury? There's a lot of different directions you could go with it, or you could just do it and hurt yourself. But I think that when someone's talking about reproduction, it's important to find out how you connect to something larger than yourself and surrender to something larger than yourself. That what is that connection that helps you know your heart better? Because it might be your religion of origin. It might be your yoga or your meditation practice. It might be writing. For some people, it might be dance or even running or playing a sport. One thing that I think is very, very helpful that the organized religions do is to treat the reproductive process as a rite of passage that is guided by a person, oftentimes an elder, because it's possibly the most intense transition that a person will ever go through in their life. It's more intense than anything I've ever experienced. Typically, this kind of reproductive support is built around a couple getting married. And the two of them may receive guidance or counseling from a pastor or a priest or some other leader in their religious or spiritual community. Now, there are two problems with this for modern day. The first one is more people are religiously unaffiliated and don't have this kind of spiritual guidance for their reproductive process, which is a spiritual process. The second problem is that people are having children more outside of conventional marriage, which is often what these religions are providing support for. So some are even entering this reproductive journey even without a partner altogether. So they're doing it on their own. And in these cases, the organized religions may not be the most appropriate place to meet people where they are at. And this was honestly one of my motivators in supporting people on their fertility journeys, which I've been doing for the last 10 years, and obviously more intensely since my book, The Ayurvedic Guide to Fertility, was launched in 2020. And I'm not alone. There are tons of people doing some kind of fertility coaching of some sort, working on the preconception process for people. And even if somebody's going to a fertility clinic, which is a type of support that someone would receive for their fertility journey, many of these people who go to a fertility clinic are also looking for something else that helps incorporate the whole person into the process, their emotions, their mind, or the rest of the body outside of this narrow set of interventions that are focused on tweaking, manipulating, physically manipulating the reproductive functions and the organs. And people are also looking for a type of community support that is helpful when you want to feel held in going through one of the most challenging processes of your life. So people are looking for support. And this journey is definitely a mind, body, spirit one. In my book, The Ayurvedic Guide to Fertility, I wrote about this concept of the 4 fertility factors, which comes from Ayurveda. And it's this metaphor, it's like a gardening metaphor of the seeds. You have seeds, and then you have the season for them to be, planting and growing. And then you have the field that they become planted in. And then you have the water that nourishes and cares for all of this. And if you haven't already caught this episode and you're interested in fertility, then you can go to episode 123. I did a while back on natural fertility strategies when we're done here. So I recommend that if you're interested more in that fertility stuff. So to honor the wisdom of the body, which is the bridge between the mind, the body, and the spirit, there are quite a few ways that it can deepen your spiritual practice and your overall well-being, which is helpful in general, but especially important when you're undergoing a transition like the one to becoming a parent. First, you have to understand that your body is a sacred vessel. I hope this doesn't sound too cheesy, but it is a sacred vessel. You have all these different channels that go through your body, tubes, pores, different tracts, nerves. All these different channels are space that things can flow through. And you have a role in determining what and how things flow through you, all these decisions that you make, and finding that balance between exercising your will and surrendering to that which is larger than we are. That's quite a challenge for all of us. We're always looking for that balance. So your body is not merely a vessel for this sensory food that comes in, or the literal food, or a vessel for thoughts, or a vessel for your soul. It's actually a manifestation of the divine energy. It's manifesting the energy behind the form. And by honoring and respecting your body, you honor the divine essence within you, and you cultivate reverence for the gift of life. And you'll be more likely to know how to do this for others when you can do this for yourself well. So let me ask you, is there any way that you could treat your body more like a sacred vessel? One that is a sacred vessel to bring in the most beautiful gifts of the universe. Is there anything that comes to mind that you could do? And next, you must know that the mind-body connection is a fundamental aspect of spirituality. There is no religion or science or spirituality or science. These things do not oppose each other. They're always synergistic. They don't exist in opposition to each other. Anybody who tells you that is limited in their thinking. Your physical health, your emotional well-being, and your spiritual growth, they're all deeply interconnected. If you do not feel attuned and coherent and in flow, then practices like meditation or yoga and mindful movement can help you align these aspects of yourself, your mind, your body, your spirit, and then fostering more harmony and balance within. And right now, why don't you take a deep exhale, let it all go, and then take a deep inhale, and then another deep exhale. Take one again, another deep inhale, and another deep exhale. Now, do it in a way that feels good to you. Take another one on your own. Do it in a way that feels good to you. Take an inhale that feels good to you and an exhale that feels good to you. How do you modulate that thing, that breath? Because how you breathe can change you in a moment. And the changes you make in your physical life and in the web of things that keeps you connected around you, your field, that's what helps energetic changes stick. So breathing, yes, is a shortcut to changing your state, but we have to do more if we want to get changes to stick. The wisdom of the body is a type of embodied spirituality, integrating your spiritual, your physical selves. And we're always playing with the edges of spirituality and materiality. We're creatures of both. We don't want to seek transcendence and check out from the body. We want to embrace our physicality as a pathway to the spiritual awakening. Don't tune out of the body. Drop in to feel the body. This is an edge. We want the kind of awareness that is balanced between the inner state and the outer world. Whenever you become overwhelmed by thoughts or ideas or plans, or maybe it's emotions and reactions to things, or maybe it's pain that your body feels. Whenever you become overwhelmed by these things, then it's time to readjust your focus between the inner and the outer. If you become, conversely, too focused on the things around you, people that are bothering you, things that they're doing, things in the media, whatever, you become too fixated on that external, then go to the body. Feel your whole body right now. Feel your whole body right now. The coolest thing is knowing that you can choose to do this. That is using this awareness. Your awareness helps you pay attention to what the wisdom of the body is telling you, and you can direct it. Your body has remarkable capability for healing and for transformation because it's always moving towards homeostasis. That which is helping you move toward homeostasis is the wisdom of the body. Plus, the wisdom of the body helps guide your constant regenerating process that stays in effect your whole life. Somehow, something affiliated with you knows your essence. And when your cells are dying and being born, which is always happening, new cells are being born and other ones are dying within your physical structure, somehow your body knows how to bring it all back together. Somehow it knows how to do this. And through practices like energy work or body work, holistic therapies, we can support this body's innate healing intelligence and facilitate not just physical transformation, but mental and spiritual growth. So let's take a moment to feel gratitude and reverence for our bodies and that which brings our bodies back to homeostasis. Let's experience this for all the things in our life that support us. Yeah, there's lots of negative things that we could focus on, but there's so many things that are going right in order for us to even be here. All the things that have challenged us, let's be grateful for those. Those things that challenge us, they wake us up to the fact that now we have to do some things differently. What's more spiritual than arriving into your heart space to experience gratitude and reverence? Each breath, each heartbeat is a reminder of the sacredness of life and the interconnectedness of the material and the spiritual. Your heart becomes the beat of a song that tells your life story. And all the hearts you touch, all the hearts that touch you, we make the music together. So let's take a moment to express gratitude for the miraculous gift of our bodies and the opportunity to experience the richness of human experience. If you're someone who follows a specific faith and practices a religion, then see how these body awareness exercises feel for you. What does your body tell you in those moments when you're thinking about your religion, when you're doing a religious practice? What does your body tell you? Some people find that the same types of perfection that they may struggle with in other aspects of life can creep into their religious experience, telling them, you're not good enough. This is possibly what comes up for people when they hear the word sin, when they hear the word karma. Where can you allow yourself to be more human? Even if it means rebelling against something others have told you is not appropriate to your religion. And I'm not encouraging you to sin or quote unquote do bad things or whatever, but I'm challenging you to reframe what you think a sin might be. What is a sinful act in one time or context actually may be a sacred act in another time. So I encourage you to continue exploring the profound connection between spirituality and the body in your own practice, remembering that your body is not separate from your spiritual journey. It is an integral part of it. And so by honoring and nurturing your body and listening to it, you develop a deeper connection to your spiritual essence and embrace the fullness of your nature, which is divine.
If you are embarking on a fertility journey and are ready to have your mind blown about what your body is really capable of and how it's impacted by the environment, then check out my book, The Ayurvedic Guide to Fertility. You can actually download the introduction to the book for free on my website at heathergrzych.com. That's Heather, Grzych.com. Read the intro for free and then buy the rest of this fertility enlightening book pretty much anywhere books are sold. You want a full human experience when you seek a healthcare provider, and you don't want 15 minutes with someone who can't even try to find out the root cause of things because they're so overwhelmed themselves. You have a body, a mind, a heart, and dare I say it, even emotions. You're not crazy. Everything does affect you, and it's possible to feel better if you have the support you need. Set up an appointment with me to heal naturally. Go to heathergrzych.com. That's Heather, Grzych.com. Thank you for tuning in and dropping in with us today. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. I really want to hear your feedback. To learn more about my work, visit heathergrzych.com. That's Heather, Grzych.com. And meet me here next time on the Wisdom of the Body.